I've always been the one keeping our family together. The one making sure the holidays were special, birthdays were celebrated, and no one felt forgotten. If there was a gathering, I planned it. If there was a gift to be given, I bought it. I never expected much in return. Just some basic appreciation, maybe a simple thank you. But after years of doing everything for my family, I realized something. They didn't just take me for granted. They didn't see me at all. It started small. When we were younger, I naturally took on the role of the responsible one. Our parents worked a lot, and as the oldest daughter, I fell into the habit of organizing things. My brother, Nate, is 4 years older than me, but he's always been the laid-back type. The kind of guy who assumes everything will just work out. And my younger sister, Lauren, well, she followed his lead. As we got older, it became clear that Nate and Lauren never worried about the details. They didn't stress about planning Thanksgiving dinner, choosing the perfect Christmas presents, or making sure our parents' anniversary was celebrated properly. They just showed up, enjoyed everything, and left without a second thought. I told myself it was fine, that this was just my role in the family. I convinced myself that organizing things made me happy. But after so many years of being the one who made things happen, I started to wonder, what would happen if I stopped? The answer? Nothing. Last Christmas was the breaking point. Every year, I went all out. I rented a beautiful venue, paid for catering, and even hired a Santa for the kids. I bought expensive gifts for Nate's and Lauren's children, things I knew they wanted but their parents wouldn't splurge on. Custom dolls, gaming consoles, limited edition sneakers. Every detail of the night was perfect. And what did I get in return? Nothing. Not even a card. I remember sitting there at the dinner table, watching as everyone laughed, ate, and opened their presents. I waited, hoping that maybe, just maybe, someone would say, "Alice, this is amazing. Thank you." But all I got were complaints. "This cake is too sweet," Lauren muttered, pushing her plate away. "I thought we were doing Christmas at Mom's house this year," Nate said, as if I had forced them to come. And the worst part? When it was time for gifts, my name wasn't even on the list. Lauren handed out presents, joking about how hard she worked to pick them. Nate gave some half-hearted gifts, mostly cheap stuff from Amazon. But when the night was over, I realized something. I was the only one who didn't get a single thing. Not even a candle. I went home that night and cried. Not because I wanted expensive gifts, but because it was clear. They didn't care. They never had. My birthday came 2 months later. I decided to test something. I didn't say a word about it. No reminders. No hints. Just silence. The day came and went. Nothing. No call from Nate. No text from Lauren. At first, I thought maybe they had forgotten. But when I saw Lauren post a picture of her dog with the caption, "Happy birthday to my little angel," I realized it wasn't forgetfulness. It was just indifference. I spent years bending over backward for these people, and they couldn't be bothered to remember my birthday. That was the moment I decided I was done. For the first time in my life, I chose to put myself first. I stopped planning. Stopped organizing. Stopped buying gifts. And you know what happened? Lauren called me 2 weeks before Easter. "Hey, what's the plan for this year?" "There is no plan," I said simply. She laughed like I was joking. "Come on, Alice. We always do something." "Not this year." The silence on the other end was satisfying. A few days later, Nate texted me. "Mom wants to know what we're doing for Mother's Day." "Ask Lauren," I replied. He never responded. When Easter came, there was no grand celebration. No decorations. No expensive gifts for their kids. Just a quiet Sunday like any other. And guess what? They noticed. Lauren called me that night, annoyed. "So, are we just not doing family holidays anymore?" "I don't know," I said. "I guess if no one else is willing to plan them, then no." "You could have at least said something," she snapped. I laughed. "Like how you said something on my birthday?" Silence. Then she muttered something about how I was being dramatic and hung up. Nate didn't even bother reaching out. I won't lie. Part of me hoped that pulling away would make them realize what I'd done for them all these years. That they'd finally appreciate me. But the truth is, some people only value you when you're useful to them. And once you stop being useful, they just move on. It hurt at first, but now I feel free. For the first time in my life, I'm spending holidays the way I want. I book trips for myself. I buy gifts for people who actually appreciate them. And most importantly, I don't waste my time on people who never cared about me in the first place. And you know what? It turns out holidays are a lot more enjoyable when you're not the only one doing all the work. For years, I had been the one holding everything together. Family holidays, birthdays, special events. If something needed to be planned, I was the one who did it. If there was a party, I organized it. If there were gifts to be given, I bought them. And no one ever seemed to notice. I used to think they appreciated me in their own way. That deep down, even if they didn't say it out loud, my family knew how much work I put into making sure everything was perfect. But after my last birthday was ignored, after years of planning holidays without so much as a thank you, I finally understood the truth. I was nothing more than a convenience to them. So I decided to test them. My niece Sophie was turning 10. Normally, I would have spent weeks planning the perfect birthday party for her, booking a venue, organizing games, ordering a custom cake with whatever cartoon character she was obsessed with at the moment. I would have spent hundreds of dollars on decorations, party favors, and gifts, making sure she had a day to remember. But this year, I did nothing. I wanted to see if anyone else would step up. If anyone would even notice. In the weeks leading up to her birthday, our family group chat was as active as ever. Nate sent memes, Lauren talked about Thanksgiving plans, and my mom kept reminding us to RSVP for a cousin's wedding. Not once did anyone mention Sophie's birthday. Not even Lauren, her own mother. I waited. The day came and went. No messages. No plans. Sophie's birthday had been completely ignored. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt sick. Not for myself, but for her. She was just a kid. She didn't deserve this. But still, I waited. 3 days later, Lauren finally noticed. She sent me a message, not in the group chat, but privately. Lauren, why did you just ignore Sophie? No hello. No apology for forgetting herself. Just immediate blame. I stared at my screen, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. A dozen responses ran through my head. I could have pointed out that she was Sophie's mother, not me. I could have reminded her how many years I had done everything while she and Nate sat back, assuming I would handle it. I could have asked why it took her 3 days to realize her own daughter's birthday had been skipped. Instead, I kept it simple. Me. I was waiting to see if anyone else would remember. She read it immediately. I saw the typing bubble appear, disappear, then appear again. Finally, her response came. Lauren, are you serious? She's just a kid. Me, exactly. And no one, not even her own mom, thought to do anything for her. Another long pause. Then she called me. I let it ring. A minute later, another text. Lauren, you're being so petty. You made her cry. That hit me. I imagined Sophie, a little girl who had always looked up to me, wondering why her birthday had been ignored. Wondering why the aunt who always made such a big deal out of it had suddenly gone silent. And I almost caved. Almost apologized. But then anger took over. Me, no, Lauren. You made her cry. You, Nate, Mom, Dad. Every single one of you who didn't even bother to notice. I've been the only one who's cared all these years, and the second I stop, everything falls apart. And instead of blaming yourself, you come after me? I'm done. She didn't reply. For the first time in my life, I had stopped playing my role. And my family had failed. The fallout from Sophie's forgotten birthday was immediate. Lauren had gone silent after our last conversation, but I knew it was only a matter of time before someone else got involved. And, of course, it was Nate. He called me the next day, his voice sharp the moment I picked up. What the hell, Alice? I didn't even bother pretending to be confused. What now? You know what? Sophie's been crying for 2 days because you ignored her birthday. Lauren said you refused to do anything for her. I let out a humorless laugh. Lauren refused to do anything for her own daughter. And so did you. But sure, let's pretend this is all on me. Don't twist this, he snapped. You're the one who always plans the birthdays. She expected something from you. There it was. Not we should have done something. Not I feel awful for forgetting my own niece's birthday. Just she expected you to do it. So why didn't you? I could feel my fingers clenching into a fist. And whose fault is that, Nate? Who taught everyone in this family that if they sit back and do nothing, I'll always step in? He didn't answer. So I kept going. You all assumed I'd plan Sophie's party. That I'd buy the gifts, book the venue, send the invitations. And none of you thought, hey, maybe we should check in with Alice? Maybe we should handle it this time. Silence. Then finally he sighed. Look, I get it. But Sophie's just a kid. She shouldn't have to suffer because you want to prove a point. That sent a spark of rage through me. I didn't do this to prove a point, I said, voice cold. I did this to see if any of you would step up. And you didn't. So don't put this on me. You and Lauren dropped the ball, and instead of taking responsibility, you're trying to make me feel guilty. She's 10, Alice. His voice was tight with anger now. Lauren says she won't even talk to her because she's so upset. You need to fix this. I almost laughed at the audacity of it. You need to do something special for her, he continued, as if I hadn't said a word. She needs to know she wasn't forgotten. There it was again. Now we need to do something. You need to fix it. You need to make it right. And that's when I decided I was done. I took a breath, forcing my voice into the same indifferent tone they had always used with me. I said, dragging the word out. I forgot. It's just a birthday party. Nate went silent. For a second, I thought he'd hung up. Then I heard his sharp inhale. Are you serious? Dead serious. He swore under his breath. You're being a real bitch right now. Maybe, I said. But at least I'm not blaming someone else for my own failure as an uncle. He hung up. I sat there, heart pounding, fingers shaking slightly as I put my phone down. I knew this wasn't over. Nate was furious. Lauren was probably still sulking. And if there was one person in this family who would never let something like this go, it was our mother. She called 2 hours later. I didn't answer. A text came through a minute later. Mom, family dinner Sunday. Everyone will be there. We need to talk. The classic guilt trip gathering. I had seen it 100 times before. Anytime there was conflict, our mother insisted on a family dinner to sort things out. But it was never about solving problems. It was about getting everyone to fall back in line. I knew exactly how it would go. She would cook a big meal and play the loving, concerned mother. Lauren would act wounded, like I had personally attacked her. Nate would be defensive, but still pretend to be the reasonable one. And at some point, the conversation would turn into a lecture about how important family is and how I needed to stop holding grudges. And the goal? To make me cave. To make me slip back into my old role, the one who smoothed things over, who fixed everything, who took care of all of them without asking for anything in return. Not this time. I didn't respond to the text. The next morning, she called again. I let it go to voicemail. Then another text. Mom, I don't understand why you're being so stubborn. Can you at least come talk to us? Still, I said nothing. Sunday came. At exactly 6 o'clock, my phone started buzzing. Mom. Then Nate. Then Lauren. Then Mom again. I turned my phone off. The next morning, I woke up to a long message from my mother. Mom, I don't know what's gotten into you, Alice. We all showed up last night expecting to have a civilized conversation, and you couldn't even be bothered to come. This is not how family works. We support each other. We show up for each other. If you're upset, you should have come and talked to us instead of ignoring everyone. I stared at the message, barely believing what I was reading. We support each other. We show up for each other. Funny how that only seemed to apply when they wanted something from me. I set my phone down without responding. For the first time in my life, I wasn't playing by their rules anymore. And I could feel it. Everything was shifting. I hadn't spoken to Nate in months when he finally reached out. It happened on a cold November afternoon, weeks after their disastrous Thanksgiving. I was at home, drinking coffee and enjoying the silence, when my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. I ignored it at first, assuming it was spam. But when it rang again a minute later, I had a feeling I knew who it was. I let it go to voicemail. A few seconds later, a text popped up. Nate, Alice, it's me. Can we talk? I stared at the message, feeling nothing. No anger, no anticipation. Just nothing. For so long, my relationship with my family had been defined by obligation, guilt, and frustration. But after cutting them off, after months of refusing to clean up their messes, I had finally felt something I hadn't experienced in years, peace. So why was Nate reaching out now? I took my time responding. Me? What do you want? A minute passed. Then another. Nate, I just want to talk. In person. Please. I hesitated. A part of me wanted to ignore him. To let him sit with the consequences of his actions a little longer. But there was another part, a quieter part, that was curious. So, against my better judgment, I said. Me fine. Tomorrow. 3 p.m. The coffee shop on 5th. I didn't expect him to show up on time, but the next day, as I walked into the cafe at exactly 3 p.m., I saw him sitting by the window, nervously drumming his fingers on the table. He looked different. Not physically. He still had that same slightly disheveled look, like he had just rolled out of bed, but there was something in his face, a tension I hadn't seen before. I sat down across from him. All right. Talk. He let out a breath. Thanks for coming. I said nothing. He shifted in his seat. I wanted to say that I get it now. I raised an eyebrow. Get what? He swallowed. Everything. I folded my arms, waiting. He ran a hand through his hair, looking down at the table. You were right. About all of it. We took you for granted. I took you for granted. I didn't say anything. I just assumed things would work out because they always did. Because you made sure they did. And when you stopped, he let out a dry, humorless laugh. Everything fell apart. I sipped my coffee watching him. Easter was a disaster, he admitted. No one knew what to bring, so we ended up with 6 different kinds of potato salad and nothing else. Thanksgiving? That was even worse. Lauren and I fought over who was in charge. Mom refused to step in, and the whole thing was a mess. Half the family left early. No one had a good time. I waited. I wouldn't have realized it if you hadn't left, he admitted. I thought you were just being dramatic at first, but now I see it. You were doing everything. And we didn't even notice. I set my cup down. So why are you telling me this now? He hesitated. Because I want to fix things. I tilted my head. Fix what, exactly? I don't know, he admitted. Our relationship, I guess. I don't expect you to come back and start doing everything again. But I don't want things to be like this. I don't want us to be strangers. I studied him, searching for any sign of manipulation. Any indication that he was trying to guilt me into returning to my old role. But for the first time, there was none. Just exhaustion. And regret. Finally, I nodded. All right. His shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you. But, I added, let me be very clear, I am never going back to how things were before. I'm not your family coordinator. I'm not your personal event planner. If you want to keep a relationship with me, it's going to be as equals. I'm done being used. He nodded. I get it. And for the first time, I actually believed him. Lauren, on the other hand, never reached out. She never apologized. Never admitted she had done anything wrong. She stayed silent, stewing in whatever version of events she had created in her mind. I had blocked her months ago, and I never unblocked her. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. No debts to my family. No manipulation. No pressure. Just peace.